The game fives are in the book. Celtics advance. Nuggets are up. Mavs are up. Knicks are up. We're going to get to all the game fives on a quick Thursday pod before hitting some hot streak shooting slump. Let's get into foul trouble. Where do you want to start? Should we just say goodbye to the Cavs?
Let's say goodbye to the Cavs real quick. I wore my Cavs shirt to say goodbye to the Cavs. I don't know. They won a playoff series. Was that the goal for this series or for the season for them?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, they didn't really change their team too much coming into the year. They added Max Strus. I think we all thought that was a good move. I think, last year they lose to the Knicks in a series that coming into that series, everyone was like, I feel like the Cavs are going to win, but it's kind of like a 50-50, leaning Cavs. And then the Knicks obviously win in like 5 last year. We have some of those like alarming quotes like Jared Allen saying maybe the lights were too bright. And that's kind of what started the whole like Mitchell's going to get traded, series of events. And me and you have already talked a lot about like what the Cavs should do with their future. So we're not going to bemoan that on this podcast. But I think overall for the Cavs, it's kind of a mixed season where I feel like, yes, winning a playoff series is really, really a good thing. But I almost feel like the series is muddied a little bit in the fact that it's like, okay, we still seem like we have 2 different teams that are good individually, but they're not great when they come together. And we have to choose one going forward and, go from there. But I think the one thing that I'll repeat that I've said about the Cavs is like, I know everyone kind of seems to hate this team construction, but I still feel like it's the stepping stone to what their ultimate end goal is. And I still like them in that sense because I think especially Mitchell has shown and Mobley have shown so much that it's like you can move forward with these 2 guys and I think build something good.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if anything, this playoff run has really clarified in my eyes what the Cavs need to stick to going forward. And that's Evan Mobley needs to be your center moving forward. Jared Allen is an awesome player, especially in like that January, February stretch where the Cavs were really clicking on all cylinders. A lot of that had to do with Jared Allen, but now is the time to capitalize on that. He's extension eligible. I think maybe it's the kind of thing where like, can you find a team that's really eager to lock him in on a long-term contract? And then I think Donovan Mitchell has raised his stature in the league this year to like really being one of those guys, which he had like elements of in the past. Of course, he's had really great showings in the playoffs, but like he is their guy. And if I'm a Cavs fan, I'm hoping that the Cavs are willing to bend over backwards to do whatever to keep this guy because he's the kind of guy that you just can't get.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think Mitchell's by far one of the best like scoring 2 guards in the NBA. Like, I think he's the ultimate building around piece for this team, him and Mobley. And like, I know everyone loves to build around the homegrown talent, and Garland's had some great moments. And like, Garland kind of had a disappointing end of the season. I know the Cavs missed Mitchell the last 2 games with a calf strain, which was also kind of a damper on the series. Like, all right, it's 2-1, and Mitchell's hurt, and the series is over. But Cleveland was oddly competitive in the 2 games without Mitchell, which I think is another good sign for the Cavs that, like, look, Garland I know he's had a huge slump. I still think Garland's a good player. And I think, Cleveland, I think Cleveland's in a better spot because I feel like everyone's just been so negative about this whole Cleveland construction ever since it started.
They've got really tradable contracts. I think coming into this offseason, it's going to be a trade market where a lot of big number deals are flying around and are available, which puts Cleveland in a very advantageous place because they have pretty big contracts that they can cobble together, but they're not a second apron team just yet. Yeah, I mean, I would be looking for them to maybe capitalize on the Garland piece, capitalize on the Jared Allen piece, see if there's a way that you can bring in a big wing. LeBron, no.
He was at the game.
He was at the game. Last time he was at a Cavs game. Zydrunas Ilgauskas is
and then he
retirement.
signed away from the Heat. All right, let's get to the other team in that series, the Celtics. So they win in 5. I mean, there's not really a lot to touch on with the Celtics here. I mean, they're just the talent gap between them and the 2 teams they've played, especially the 2 teams they've played who are both missing their best player for certain games. Not to take anything away from the Celtics because they can't control that, and they are blowing these teams out in all of these wins.
Yeah, it's cavernous. It is huge. Jason Tatum improves to 60 and 44 in his playoff career, which is like an insane number of playoff games just in general. I saw he's 2 games behind, I think, Bob Cousy for playoff games played. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's made an ECF run every year of his career, it feels like. I think the only once they haven't made it there since Jason Tatum's gotten there.
For the Celtics, it's just like get healthy, get Kristaps hopefully back in the fold for this Eastern Conference Finals, and like, oh, hello Siri.
Hi.
I think you can't get complacent, which is a worry that a lot of people have about the Celtics all the time. And like, can Jason Tatum be the best player for this Celtics team in the next series? Or do they even need that? Because I think that was probably Jaylen Brown this series.
I don't think they need that because the other Eastern series, the Knicks and the Pacers, I mean, Knicks are up 3-2. Jalen Brunson is electric in Game 5. He's just incredible, kind of continuing what he did in the beginning stretch. Halliburton really keeps fading. That Halliburton over Brunson USA selection just looks worse and worse by the day. And, I mean, I don't really know what to make of this series just because it's like, you know, it's that stupid adage that I hate, but it seems like it's true. It's not a series until the road team wins. So is this series ever going to start, or is it just going to come by and it's going to say Knicks in 7?
I think it will start. I think
it'll start by ending because the Knicks are going to win a road game.
Yeah. I mean, dude, we just need to take a second and like look at what Jalen Brunson is doing right now. He's averaging almost 33.9 points per game in these playoffs, and we've literally never seen this from a guy as short as Jalen Brunson is. And this Knicks team, I struggle to see them being able to really compete with the Celtics just for the mere point of they are not healthy. But New York is behind them. I love seeing every single game. Every Knicks legend is at the game. John Starks is literally standing on the court, it seems, throughout the entirety of every home game. Josh Hart is having the best little man rebounding playoffs of all time, bar none.
Yeah, no, Hart's been awesome. I mean, this Pacers series, it's just one of those weird series where it feels like, as much as we want to dive into X's and O's and everything, it just feels like an energy series, like full stop. Like Pacers go on the road, all of a sudden they look completely tapped. The Knicks are playing with this home crowd energy, and I feel like it's so different than like the West, where it seems like the teams are at this level where it's like the crowds don't matter. We're just gonna do our thing. But the East is full of these like young upstart teams where it's like they need everything they can get. But I mean, yeah, I don't want to write the Pacers off just because it is 3-2, but it does kind of feel like the Knicks. I don't know. Last time we saw a team snatch the other team's soul, they decided they lost 3 straight games. So I don't want to go there. But like, I don't know. There's just something about like the Knicks kind of physicality that you kind of get the same sense from the Sixers series where, in the first few games, we're like, all right, come on, we can just out rebound these guys. We can play with these guys. And then it's like Game 5 and it's like, how is Josh Hart still doing this? How is he still skying in for his 18th rebound?
Well, I think it took a second for once OG was out of the fold for the Knicks, it took them a second to figure out, like, what are we going to do right now? Like, we only really have 5 playable players. How are we going to 5, maybe 6 playable players? How are we going to reshuffle this deck into like a feasible rotation? And Tibbs really found that, I think, in Miles McBride being inserted into the starting lineup for that Game 5. I think he completely changed just the energy of this team. And I don't necessarily think that running a lineup that short is going to work against a team like the Celtics. But against the Pacers, you can 100% get away with something like that. And I think that is upping the pace with that really 4-guard lineup. I think that played into Tyrese Halliburton only attempting 9 shots. It got him in transition. They're running off makes every single time. Got him into transition a little bit more. And I just think Tyrese Halliburton, at least last game, but it seems like he just can't. He has to think about, like, am I going to be a passer right now or am I going to be a scorer? And there's no like toggling between those two things for him.
Yeah, no, I just like straight up, Halliburton's been pretty disappointing. Like, I just feel like only taking 9 shots is just not it's just not really acceptable for a guy like
not
that.
at all. Just say that with your chest,
Like,
dude.
it's just not. Yeah, Halliburton's just been really disappointing. It feels like he's getting a lot of those like looks in the paint where it's like, okay, it's maybe not an open layup, but like take the fucking shot. Like, don't pass it off. Like, I feel like he's trying to pass a little bit too much. And like, if we've learned anything about like winning on the road in the playoffs, I feel like winning at home is really more about like getting the role players involved, and winning on the road is really like your star needs to put up big numbers. I feel like we see that throughout NBA history, that like star players carry you to road wins, role players carry you to home wins. And it's just like, dude, like, you can't do the back off, the dump off pass to Turner every time you're in the paint or Siakam. Like, you got to take some tough shots. You got to make the defense honor you first. That's what opens up the passing. And I think like it's a weird comparison, but like you got to look at a guy like Jokic, where it's like the reason Jokic is able to create these insane passing angles isn't just that he's the best passer. It's that he's also such a lethal scorer that it makes the defense have to respect his scoring game, which opens up passing lanes.
And he's so unpredictable. You know, like I obviously this is the case, but the defining moment of really this whole playoffs for the Pacers was that whole stretch at the end of game 3 that ended in the Nembhard 3. That is exactly what we're talking about. Tyrese Halliburton bricks a 3, which, okay, that's going to happen sometimes. But then you get the ball back and you just, when it's crunch time, when it's nut crunching time, you throw a grenade to your second year, like, backcourt mate in Andrew Nembhard, who really shouldn't even be starting.
Who had not made a shot like that whole game to that point.
And he's just like, okay, like, I guess I have to jack this up. There's 2 seconds left in the shot clock. And it ended up working out, but like, that's not going to work out. That is when you turn to your star. And Halliburton, as much as I love Halliburton's game, he just hasn't been up for it.
Yeah. This series is really funny to me because we came into this series and I think I predicted a Knicks sweep. What was your prediction? Knicks in 5 or 6?
I think 5, yeah.
Then the Knicks go up 2-0, and then we're like, they're up 2-0, but like, I don't know, man.
They're dropping like flies.
And then the Pacers tie it up 2-2, and me and you come back, and all of a sudden we're both like, yeah, but now I kind of like the Knicks again, and then the Knicks win a game 5, and I don't know. This has been a really funny series, just the way you and I have viewed it, and the way it's like kind of unfolded, like mirroring our thoughts about it, but also like this weird lack of uncertainty. But I do feel like the Knicks are going to close it out in game 6. What do you feel like?
Yeah, I think so too. I think they figured out the mix, and I just think this Knicks team has too much magic to stop the ride here.
Yeah, and apparently OG Anunoby is a possibility to come back after game 6. So
would you play him in 6? No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't play him in 6, but if he can come back after 6, especially if they win, like, that's the guy that will. I think without OG, the Celtics series is kind of a wash. But with OG, I think the Knicks can make it interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I would, without OG, if you're guaranteeing me no OG in a Knicks Celtics series, I'm thinking Celtics in 5. But yeah, I think we're pretty close there.
All right, let's go to the West. This is where the big boy series are.
The big boy and the young child series. But let's start with the biggest boy series, Wolves Nuggets. I'm just going to give you the floor, my man.
Yeah, so, I mean, before game 5, I was like, I feel like we've gotten some good Jokic games, but we haven't gotten, like, the Jokic game, and we got the Jokic game, where he turned into a combination of Magic, Hakeem, whoever you want. He's going for sky dunks.
LeBron,
he's Air Jokic.
Will Chamberlain.
They ran a play, Patrick, in the third quarter where Kat is guarding Jokic, and Gordon is being guarded by Gobert. And they set an off-ball screen so Jokic can be guarded by Gobert. And then he just goes right at him and scores. And he just goes, take that deep boy away, little man.
Okay, I got to take a few steps back real quick. This game, the Wolves took the lead early in the third quarter. I think other than really the third quarter, I thought Gobert was like relatively pretty good.
He was pretty good playing help defense, which has always been Gobert's strength. But I think the worry thing is just, it's kind of what we talked about on Monday, is this, the Nuggets are like, okay, but can you actually just guard straight up? And he can't even slow Jokic down.
Yeah, but like Jokic was reaching. I think that game was the best game of Jokic's career. I thought it was the most impressive game. I thought when the Nuggets needed him more than anything right there. Jamal Murray really has been very hit or miss in this series. And I thought he kind of disappeared in places in game 5. And Jokic felt that. And then he just went into, and this is my favorite version of Jokic, he went into full transition, just like absolute God mode in that third quarter. And I think at the end of the third quarter, they had like a 13-point lead going into the fourth. And it was just, it was full court passes to Aaron Gordon. It was, wraparound passes. It was over the head passes of guards. Just like an insane bag moment for Nikola Jokic and 0 turnovers.
He's just the best player in the world. Like, there's really no other way to put it. And I think that's what is tough for the Wolves, right? Is like, because like you have a guy like Gobert, where like Gobert is actually doing a pretty good, as good a job you can on these like dump offs to Gordon and these like other cutters, and like Gobert's playing really good help defense. But it is hard when the Nuggets are like, all right, instead of letting you play help defense, we're just going to go right at you. So that way, the help defense has to come from Cat, which is basically non-existent.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing I thought was really interesting. Your Prince, Ant, Ben Taylor of Thinking Basketball pointed this out. I guess Ant has this weird habit of when someone else on the Wolves is taking a jump shot, Ant will just sit there and watch to see what happens. And the Nuggets scored like 8 points off whoever Ant was guarding, just leaking out in transition. That was one of Jokic's touchdown passes.
Yeah, I know the Timberwolves' transition defense was really, really rough in that game.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, and they really kind of did that nice like half doubling, like doubling Ant on the dribble and not on the catch. That kind of really flummoxed him, led to a lot of turnovers. And like, I don't know, man. It's. I mean, the Nuggets have won 3 straight. It's looking kind of rough for the Wolves. I mean, do you feel any glimmer of hope, or do you kind of feel like, all right, it's been a good season?
I will say, I don't know if the way Max feels right now can be the most like reasonable measured thing, but I'll let you have your moment.
Do we think that Jokic was trying in the first 2 games? That's what I'm curious about.
I think the first 2 games was a combination of Murray's hurt, so they can really pressure him in the backcourt.
Yeah.
And the Nuggets hadn't made that adjustment yet where they're going to let Gordon bring up the ball. And that's why it kind of felt like after game 2, it was like, dude, is there only 2 people who can handle the ball on this team, Reggie Jackson and Jamal Murray? But then the Nuggets kind of made some adjustments. Murray got healthier.
They were also doing that thing where they were hounding Jokic full court, which I just think they don't have the stamina, or I don't think any team really has the stamina to keep something like that up for an entire 7-game series. But let's not
I'm not
completely
discounting.
bury the Wolves right now. If Ant has what has been his baseline game throughout these playoffs, this is a close down to the wire game. But what the Nuggets were doing with trapping Ant, especially with Mike Conley out, and such aggressive traps, I really kind of wish we saw a little bit more Monty Morris in this game. I know he's such a liability on defense, but just I think it screamed when the Timberwolves were on offense. They weren't getting good shots, and the tough shot making, ability of Anthony Edwards just was not on in that game. But if we had gotten game 4, Anthony Edwards, I think this game would have been right down to the wire with how great Jokic was playing. I know they scored 112 points, but
yeah, I guess the tough thing is like, so by game score, that actually was the best game of Jokic's playoff career. But Jokic has had like 50, 10, and 8 games before, whereas for Ant, that actually was his highest scoring playoff game ever. So I think it is kind of unreasonable to be like, all right, if Ant can do that again. Whereas with Jokic, like, if you told me he has a better game tonight than he did on last game, I'd be like, yeah, that's Jokic.
True.
But
I just need Ant to play tonight as if this is the last game. I mean, this is going to be probably the last game of his season, and needs to really play like it is. Like, he needs to be so aggressive. I need to see some dunks, some like aggressive, serious dunks.
I mean, one other thing. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I thought it was very detrimental to the Wolves' offense the way the Nuggets really dictated what Cat was getting, and it was all around the rim.
Yeah.
I think to maximize not only Cat but Ant, Cat needs to get it going from the perimeter so Ant can get it going to the
100%.
rim.
I think
100%.
the other thing, though, with the Wolves that's tough is, like, Cat has been really bad on defense.
Yeah.
He has a lot of
Don't
lapses.
say.
He just has, like, a lot of these weird lapses where he's like, oh, I'm going to go run toward Christian Brown full speed and then leave KCP wide open. Or he just has a lot of weird, like, there's been a lot of clips I've seen of, like, the Wolves are in a set defense and Cat's like guarding his man, and then all of a sudden Cat thinks he's supposed to switch when like no one else on the Wolves thinks that, and he like darts away, and then the Nuggets are like, wait a second, Jamal Murray's like wide open. Okay, all right, we'll give him the ball.
We were talking about this before the pod, but like I'm not even the biggest Cat hater in the world, but I genuinely think like, okay, we had the best playoff run we've had in forever, and we have a real solid core team to build around, but does Cat belong in that core?
Yeah, because
I don't understand. Like, genuinely, how do you justify that?
I see, because Max and I were talking, and Ant didn't have the greatest game, 5 of 15, like last game, but I think for me, Ant's 22. The Nuggets are kind of like introducing new defensive schemes to him every other game, and I think that's kind of tricky for a guy like Ant, who's like improved so much across the board and as a passer. Like, he had 9 assists in that game, but he's still not like an elite passer, and I think like players like that are a little bit easier to kind of take away in a series where you don't have guys who are like constantly moving around, because it's not like the Wolves are running all these intricate off the ball actions with Cat and stuff. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't know. I think what is the future of the Wolves? Like, obviously this is such a good team. This is what we were talking about before, is like, do you want to keep Gobert with his huge salary figure because you're the number one defense even when he's not on the court? And with Cat, it's just this maturity thing where it's like, you're so skilled, you're so talented, but you have these crazy mental lapses and you're just not there. And I know Edwards had a bad game, but if I'm a Wolves fan, I'm so encouraged with like Ant's game-to-game consistency and the fact that he's like not afraid of the moment. And like, honestly, last game was his only bad game in the series. Even in the other two games they lost, he was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the maturity thing, like, can we talk about the
Gobert.
Gobert shit?
I mean, what is there to say about that other than like there's a time and a place to be doing like things like that, and it's probably the regular season and not the second round of the playoffs against the reigning champions.
Like, I will say, like, on the scale, because like Gobert in the press conference afterwards is like, yeah, I just let my emotions get to me. They got the better of me or whatever. And I'm like, that is like a better response than like a Draymond Green, choking somebody out, or some other, like, starting a fight, basically. Like, this is better
I
than
need
that.
all of the Draymond ops to start playing better so I can stop seeing Draymond, like, talking shit from the
I did see that.
didn't make the playoffs bench.
Yeah.
Bro, he's, like, shit-talking Nurkic. I'm like, dude, Nurkic, like, was out, like, a week ago, and you guys didn't even make it. Like, leave Nurkic alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And, like, even I've been dunking on Gobert, but, like, you guys are going to make it to a game 6 or 7. Maybe even you could still win the series. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, Draymond. Leave Gobert alone.
Yeah,
let me
playing
and Patrick shit talk Gobert.
he's trying to guard the best player in the league. Like, and everybody knows
Yeah, that's
that.
what I hate on TNT when Draymond's like, oh, he's doing a horrible job on Joker. I'm like, oh, yeah, you did so much better,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, literally.
Just get out of here.
Yeah.
But my point is that like honestly, pushing somebody to the ground, getting in a fight with somebody, that's an emotional response. Doing this, that takes like
That's a conspiratorial
response.
response.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that takes like so much thought in the moment to like, I'm gonna lift my hands up and do this, even though I know I'm not supposed to do this, and that it costs me $75K every time I do it.
So for those of you who missed it, Rudy Gobert earlier in the season did like a money sign gesture at a ref when he was unhappy with a call, insinuating it was like rigged or something against him, and he did it again in one of the Wolves' losses and got fined, I want to say 75 or 100K.
75.
$75,000 for making a money gesture. And it's kind of what we talked about on Monday. It's just the Wolves have this weird dichotomy where it's like you've got Conley, the veteran, you've got Ant, this really strong young leader, and you have these two space cadets who are older, who should be veteran presences to Ant, but it feels like Ant has to have them on a fucking short leash at all times.
Yeah, it's weird. Ant has to be like, Cat, you need to stop fouling, man. You just need to stop fouling. Like, he has to tell the older bro, like, hey, you need to play tighter. Like, it doesn't really make sense.
And I don't know if someone needs to tell Rudy that if it was fixed, I think the NBA would most likely be fixing it in the Wolves' favor at
Yeah.
this point. Who do you think the NBA wants to win? like young Michael Jordan. That's how Anthony Edwards is being sold right now.
Yeah.
Or the giant horse lover from Serbia. But
Horse lover.
complaining or not complaining about calls is kind of the perfect segue into the Mavs Thunder series. Luka,
He looks better. He doesn't look 100
he
yet.
complained the least amount of calls I had ever seen in that Game 5 win against the Thunder. I was really proud of him.
Yeah, Luka's starting to look a little bit healthier. I mean, he finally started hitting some threes in this game, 5 of 11, like he did in Game 2. Okay, we haven't talked since Game 4. I thought Game 4 was one of the weirdest playoff game flows I've ever seen. The Mavs are up by 13 or 14 entering the third quarter in Game 4.
Yeah, something like that.
And then it felt like every minute and a half of game time, OKC would gain 1 point of ground. So it'd be Mavs by 14, Mavs by 13, Mavs by 12, Mavs by 11, Mavs by 10. And I felt like there was this slow death of the Mavericks over the second half of Game 4. And it's the beginning of the fourth quarter. I'm like, do the Mavs not realize that they've lost 8 points of ground? Because they're not playing like it. And then Shea goes on this crazy run where he's hitting mid-range after mid-range. The Thunder take the lead, and then it's still just Thunder go up by 1. Thunder go up by 2. I'm like, what is happening? So fast forward to Game 5, and I'm kind of I feel like the Mavs just had a historical choke job, but it happened so slowly that none of us realized how bad of a choke that was. And then it kind of the same thing was Mavs by 8.
It did
Mavs
have the
by
same
7.
feeling.
And I was like, this is happening again. I'm having deja vu. I'm watching the same game. But I mean, the difference is Luka just looks, whatever percent healthier. Kyrie's playing pretty good. Kyrie hit some crazy shots again in this game. And yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a weird series. I feel like the Mavs should have won the series. I don't know. I feel like that Game 4 was kind of a historic choke.
I mean, you could say it's a historic choke, or it's just a historic superstar moment for Shea.
So this is why I feel like it's a choke, though. The Mavs lost by 4. They shot 10 of 21 at the free throw line.
I mean,
if
yeah,
you shoot
that was
15
pretty
of
tough.
21, you win the game. And 15 of 21 isn't even good.
The reason
That's
why
less than 75%.
yes, that is very choky, and without that happening, the Thunder don't win that game. But from what I've seen of these last 2 games, and why I tend to lean more to give Shea the credit for that victory, is I've been really disappointed by the Thunder in these last 2 games. I feel like it is so clear that for the most part, and in spots, they have their moments, but for the most part, this Thunder team has not been ready for this moment.
Oh, no.
They're going down in the first quarter of every single game. They have to fight back tooth and nail. Their defense, they have good defenders, so their defense is keeping them, for the most part, around in every game. But they're overpassing. You can tell that a lot of them are in their heads when they're shooting threes. And I just think the process is so muddy unless Shea just takes the ball and is this incredible shot maker down the stretch of every game.
I feel like this series is kind of for me, why throughout the regular season when we bring up oh wow, Luka's this incredible ISO player, but Shea is a whole 0.1% better in ISOs. Why I the whole season was I still feel like Luka's the better ISO player, is because you see it in these games though with Shea. Game 4, the shot making is incredible. I'm not taking anything away from Shea, but his offense really is let me get to that 10-foot area and find a way to get a jump shot off or get a layup off. Whereas with Luka, it's I might post you up. I might.
The lob game is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, no, and I just feel like with Shea, and this is that whole thing that comes back to versatility. It's why I feel like I'm really happy with Ant, is yes, in the playoffs, maybe your efficiency is a little bit lower, but once you play playoff defense, your efficiency doesn't change because you have this insane array of moves. And I'm not saying Shea doesn't have those moves, but he is very geared. Shea, in a weird way, reminds me of Harden in that I know you have the biggest bag possible, but you only like to go into this one pouch. You like to go into that mid-range pouch.
That's an interesting comp.
Harden has always had the mid-range scoring game. He's always had the floater game. But for 4 years, he was I only want to go into my step back 3 and free throw pouch. I don't want to touch any other part of the bag. I'm going to keep it clean. And I kind of get that sense from Shea where it's all right, Shea's got the ball. All right, Shea's going to kind of get to the free throw line and dilly-dally. And in Game 4, he hit everything. He hit a behind the backboard shot.
Yeah.
But in Game 5, it didn't work quite as well because the Mavs kind of know what's coming. And I think, to me, that's what's always separated Luka and Shea this season was Luka, it's there's not one move Luka doesn't have, and he'll actually use every move he has. So the defense is constantly guessing.
Yeah, it's that same unpredictability that we've been kind of touching on in every point of this podcast.
Yeah.
One promising thing from the Thunder is they finally made the Josh Giddey adjustment to where he's kind of coming in for Shea. And Josh Giddey was actually really, really effective. I thought that was, some people were looking at like, oh, Josh Giddey had a great game, like he should be in the starting lineup. No, he had a great game because he got to do what he does best.
Yeah.
He got to do Giddey stuff. I think that was a huge win. But unfortunately for the Thunder, and I picked the Mavs in this series, I think if they were going to win this series, they had to win that game. It was the off-shooting game from PJ Washington, kind of. Kyrie still didn't blow up. It only had 12 points. They've done a really, really good job on Kyrie for the most part in this series. But Luka really came through and was just a complete world beater in that game 5. And, I'm not counting the Thunder out of forcing a game 7. And like, once you get to that point, who knows what's going to happen, but they need more from Chet. They need more from J-Dub. J-Dub has been so disappointing.
Yeah, J-Dub has kind of come down. Yeah, I feel like Chet and J-Dub both had some good moments at the end of game 5. Chet had those couple dunks. One of those dunks came off of like not settling for a 3, driving past his guy and dunking it. Then he had a putback. I'm like glad to see Chet's not afraid of the moment. I mean, J-Dub had a nice tough layup, but yeah, I mean, they're not getting a lot out of those guys. And I think like they're young. The Mavs have had a really good defense post-trade deadline the whole year. And
Mavs defense has been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more I think about it and I just stare at the fact that the Mavericks lost a 4-point game where if they had shot 70% at the free throw line, they would have won.
Totally.
The more I think about that, the more I'm like, this series really should be over.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to make 7. I'm asking you to shoot below league average at your free throws. Like, that's all we're asking, and you win the series. I don't know. I think the Mavs are going to close it out in 6 at home.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. And winning game 5, if you're not the home court advantage team, you have the opportunity to close it out at home. And I mean, not that the Dallas Mavericks crowd was very into it.
Oh yeah, what the hell happened
4?
in game 4? The Mavs. I don't know if they like the balancing on the TV audio was met because toward the end I heard like Mavs cheers, but they're so quiet. But Mavs fans, what happened in game 4? That was like the most dead crowd. I think that was also part of the slow death of the team.
Yeah, and it wasn't like during the collapse. It was during like the best part of the game for the Mavs. The crowd's just like,
yeah, I don't know. The crowd was really disappointing in game 6. I don't know. I don't really know what else to make of that. Mavs fans, you got to like get that Cowboys energy in there. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know. The cool thing about this series is I feel like it does kind of have the skeleton to be kind of rivalry-esque. Like, we've never had a pro sports Oklahoma versus Texas rivalry. These teams are young. They should be good for a really, really long time. So, I mean, I'd like to see a game 7. I'd like to see any game 7. Game 7 is the best thing in sports.
I think the Mavs and the Nuggets are the 2 best teams in the West. I've felt that way for a while now, ever since the trade deadline. I feel like I want Luka to be healthy for that series. I want Murray to be healthy for that series. So, sorry, guys. I'm rooting for Nuggets and Mavericks. I don't want game 7s.
You don't like fun. You don't like fun.
No, I want a more fun Western Conference final.
It'll be fun either way.
I want to sacrifice fun in the short term for fun in the long term.
What's one day? What's 2 extra days?
Just, you never know.
Okay, well, those are our 4 series. This has been a really fun playoffs, and now I think it's time for us to get into hot streak shooting slump.
Yeah, so Max, hot streak or shooting slump for you?
This week's a big fat slump for me, but guess what? Tonight, it's about to get into streak territory, baby.
There we go.
Because the Wolves are going to force a game 7.
I love that confidence.
Ant is going to fucking ruin his body. He's going to sacrifice his entire body for this Wolves team.
75 points tonight from Ant.
He's going to drop 70 at least.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably have like 15 assists as well. I don't know. I think it could happen, guys. I really think it could happen. I don't know. I'm holding on hope. And if it doesn't, best season I've ever.
You're going
World
back home.
Series.
The weirdest thing about this whole series for the Timberwolves, they haven't won a home game yet.
Yeah. It has been an honor to play against the Nuggets and win 2 games against Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray.
I feel like
all.
I feel like every game a team wins against this Nuggets team, they should get a trophy.
Yeah. For real.
That's why the Suns hung a banner last year for their 2 wins against this Nuggets team.
As they should. Like 1-2 games against the Nuggets. Like the Lakers need to get their "we won a game against the Nuggets" banner going.
Yeah. That's all I got.
What am I having? I don't know. You go first, James.
I hate doing the I'm having a shooting streak or a hot slump. I'm in this weird mix where I've been feeling very, very inspired lately. I don't, edit my own YouTube videos that much anymore, but this was a week where I went back and edited one of the videos, and every once in a while, I get back into the editing mood, and I actually really like editing videos. That's why I started doing this all in the beginning, because it's always been one of my passions. So I'm inspired. I'm working on videos. I'm having fun doing the channel, but I'm also in this awful creative rut where I feel I can't come up with new ideas. So I'm in this weird mode where I'm all right, let's tech on the world. But I'm but what world am I going to take on?
What do I do?
Yeah. So that's been a really weird, kind of dichotomy. It's kind of funny. I've had these moments in my life too, where I remember one time I was on a water and other legal substances, and my stomach was really hurting. But I was in such a good mood, and it was such a weird dichotomy where I was really joyful, but I was but my stomach is fucking killing me, and I feel I'm having the mental version of that right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're going through, I feel is the classic artist struggle of looking for true inspiration, but also dying to create.
Yeah.
Contrary to whether that inspiration is there or not.
Yeah, no, but I'd say it's been a good week. Me and the 2 Hype guys, we all I don't want to say reconnected because it makes it seem like we haven't talked to each other, but we've all been filming together. We're about to go film some more videos together today, so I'm excited for the video I'm going to make today. I'm excited for the weekend. The nerdy side of me, World of Warcraft Miss Pandaria remix coming out. Didn't play that expansion, so I'm ready to give it a try.
There we go.
Almost level 60 on hardcore mode. Oh, I'm peak nerd season right here.
This man.
Yeah. No one is a better gamer than me.
He's in his Jokic bag.
I'm in my Jokic wow
nerd
bag. Yeah. Yeah, also, funny debate. Have I told you this question? Oh, I have. Well, for the viewers. So Luka Doncic is a top 500 Overwatch player.
Oh, yeah, we talked about
Do you know about this, Max?
Yeah, I did hear about this.
Do you think the gap between you and Luka is bigger in basketball or Overwatch?
Probably Overwatch, I would say. Safe bet.
Yeah.
Right.
How does this guy have time to be the second best player in the world at basketball and a top 500 player in the world at a game that many, many people play as hard as they can? I
mean, it kind of gets into the whole Austin Rivers, a bunch of NBA players could play in the NFL, but no NFL players could play in the NBA. NBA players are just they're freaks. They're freaks in the head. Their bodies, they're freaks. They're insane.
I feel if Isaiah Stewart can be an NBA player, Derrick Henry can be an NBA player.
I think that's disrespectful to Beef Stew.
I think that's disrespectful to D. Henny.
Derrick Henry is a freak.
Monster, yeah.
I recently found out that Rick Barry, NBA superstar from the 70s, he is currently playing professional pickleball. And he's in his late 70s right now.
Isn't he one of those psychotic competitor type dudes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's the dude who goes on the radio and yells at radio hosts.
Yeah,
I know Rick.
Rick Barry's my absolute favorite.
We love you, Rick.
Absolutely insane. Come on the pod, Rick, please. There's no way you would respect me enough to come on the pod. I am having I've had a really tough week at work, not because of anyone. It's just been a very demanding week, but elements of it have been very rewarding. And I think come next week, the other elements that haven't rewarded me will be rewarding. I'll say I've had a hot streak. I've weirdly, in the same sense as you, I've been very inspired lately. I've started making a bunch of TikToks where I'm just talking straight to the camera about like little basketball nerdy things that there's no reason we would ever talk about on the podcast. And that's been like a very fun weight event for me. I started taking a new improv class that has been very, very fun with some like insanely talented people that I've always wanted to like work with. So that has been really, really fun. And then, yeah, I mean, any week is going to have its like ups and downs, but I think in general, I will lean hot streak for this week.
Let's go. All right, well, that's been the episode. We'll see you guys on Monday. We'll see if there's any Game 7s. Or what's the situation with the NBA? Is there going to be, are Game 7s going to happen before we see people? What's the
I would
let's do some great podcasting here. Let me look it up.
Today's Thursday, so yeah, I think we would get at least one Game 7.
So we've got Game 6 of Mavs is on Saturday. Oh, they're doing one game a day until Sunday. Oh, weird. Okay. So either we're going to get Game 7s on Sunday and Monday, or we're going to get the end of these series over the next 3 days.
Oh my God. I am so excited for one game a day. NBA. That is going to be so much more manageable.
Yeah, I will say yesterday, because I went to go watch like the game at like a bar with my friend, and it's like we show up for Cavs Celtics, and it's like such a weird game because it's like, oh, the Cavs are still in it. And then it's like you kind of forget the game's happening because the inevitability of it. And then the Mavs game was, I don't know, it's just one of the, I feel like I hate the adage like only the last 5 minutes of a basketball game matters. Some of these Mavs Thunders games have really felt like that type of series.
It's like even if a team goes up by like 20, it's only the last 5 minutes.
That matters.
Yeah, I don't know. I just struggle with these East Coast games starting at like 4 o'clock. I'm not even off work yet. And then by the time I get home, the Western Conference game is starting, and then it's like, am I really gonna watch the Eastern Conference game after this? And I mean, a lot of the times I do, but that's just because I'm a freak.
Patrick, if you see like Indiana 86, Knicks 50, you don't need to rewatch it. You can leave it. You can leave it.
I will say I didn't rewatch the Cavs Celtics game yesterday.
Good. Don't bother. All right. We'll catch you guys on Monday. Peace.